You guys, welcome back. KDC Gunner coming back at you with another Tissot. I reviewed some dress watches from Tissot, some quartz chronographs, Tissot Le Locle, Tissot Visodate. So check out all those reviews. Just do a YouTube search, EDC Gunner Tissot, and you will find lots of Tissot reviews. But today I have Tissot Sports Chronograph, and this is the 500 PRS 500 series, and it's an automotive inspired sports chronograph. Back in the history in the 50s, Tissot produced sports line PR 516. I don't know what PR stands for. I did some research back when I had those vintage watches, and I learned that PR stands for particularly rugged. So back in the 50s, they might be rugged, and today I think probably just the name stuck. So without further ado, let's take a look at this. And first thing you notice with this watch is the dial. There's a plain version with the black dial, which I actually prefer, but in real life, this watch kind of looks a bit too busy with the carbon dial and all of this letterings and yellow fonts. I don't know, it's just me, but when you take a look at it from the back here under light, it doesn't. But in the real world, if you have a poor eyesight, maybe you should get something with a more contrast. I have a perfect eyesight, so that's not an issue for me. And first thing you notice, the yellow details, the yellow second hand. I love colorful second hand. Actually, this Omega also has yellow second hand, and it's absolutely gorgeous. And in fact, when you look at them side by side, the Cell kind of outshines the Omega. Omega is a bit more simple, and I like the plain bezel, but the yellow, red, second hand, and yellow are just absolutely gorgeous, if you ask me, on any watch. And this is automatic chronograph, so it's powered by ETA 750 movement. This is a bit older generation, because nowadays the So Certina and all the Swatch Group watches and companies are not using any more 7750 movements, because they come up with something of their own. They call it Tissot in-house, and I'm not a fan of that movement. They did it better back in the days, and I bet you heard that a lot. But in the case with this show, they definitely did it better back in the days, not just with Sansan 50, but back in the days in the 50s and 60s. They were using some Lemania movements, and I did a video with this show chronograph with the Lemania movement. I will link you that video somewhere here or in the description box of this one. But yeah, the first thing you notice when you flip it over is this steering wheel, and this is like a racing inspired chronograph. And this was a wet dream of mine back in the days when I first got into watches. You have to admire Tissot case backs. This is like a vintage steering wheel, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Has a yellow decorated rotor, and the rest of the machine, 7750, is not decorated, but this is a great machine for these watches, because this is a workhorse, proven movement, reliable, and it can withstand a lot of abuse and beating. So it says here, sapphire crystal chronograph, water resistant, 100 meters, automatic. So that's it. Water resistant 100 meters, that's questionable. First of all, if your watch is brand new, spanking out of the box, you can take it, but in general, chronograph watches are not intended for swimming. They have too many holes, and this crown is a screw down crown. Actually, you screw it, unscrew it nicely. However, you can also manually mount a 50, but the pushers are still here, two holes, and That's what I keep my chronographs away from water, and I suggest you do the same. So the bezel here has a tachymeter scale, one of my favorite things on a watch. Even though I cannot read it, I'm not gonna pretend I can or know how to. I can Google it, I can learn about it, but I never use it, so I'm not I'm not gonna pretend. So bezel here has a tachymeter scale. It's my favorite thing to put on a chronograph, and the bezel is not aluminum insert. This is a solid steel bezel, and bezel is painted with paint and yellow and black details, and I think that's a better solution than aluminum insert. It's a stationary bezel, you cannot rotate it, and the watch across the diameter is 42 mils, 52 lug to lug, 20 millimeter lug width, and a 15 millimeter thickness of the watch. Considering the Sun 50 movement, that's awesome. Sides of the watch used to be polished. This is a well-worn, well-used watch, and I got it broken, wasn't working. Someone watchmaker, I fixed it on my watchmaker, and I brought it home. And watchmaker reported to me that someone was messing with it, forgot to tighten up the screw, and it came loose and make a mess in there. But he all fixed it up, serviced it clean, and now it's good to go. It's running, and you can see here as a standard Sansa 50 layout, 3 registers, elapsed minutes register and elapsed hour register, and this is here just your second hand. So you stop it, and I love the crudeness and the noise Sansa 50 makes. Sansa 50 is a movement that's been used since the early 90s to throughout all watches, and even you buy a Breitling, a bit older Breitling, nowadays they have updated movements. You get a Sunset 50 IWCs and lots of chronographs, and that is just a testament you get. Of course, when you buy a Tissot with a Sunset 50, you won't get the decorations you will get with IWC or Breitling, but it's still the same movement with the same specs and everything. Another thing that catches my eyes, you can get this watch on this particular version. You get a black leather band with the holes, yellow holes inside, and of course you want to buy the watch with the steel bracelet. And the steel bracelet on this one, like I said, this is a well-worn watch and it's still running perfectly fine. It has these holes, and a neat thing here, T for Tissot, just like on the crown, T for Tissot standard. But this is really cool. This watch loves leather bands, loves NATOs, and this is a monster for NATOs and leather bands. It's just really cool. It has a day-date complications, which is also standard. Solid links all over the place. The clasp is good. It's a butterfly clasp. Do you call this butterfly clasp? I'm not sure. And it's really good. On the used market, I haven't really checked how much these are, but whatever they are on eBay or wherever you get in your used watches, I think it's worth it because this watch kicks way above its weight. Is that how you call it? It's a really cool watch. You can see on my wrist, sporty chronograph, racing inspired chronograph. You can do a lot worse than this. You can buy a Dan Henry brand new, someone a TGV is proking around, and I definitely recommend you get a used watch like this. Only thing is, you need to make sure it's running proper before you buy it, or you need to have a watchmaker because you never know with mechanical watches. Before you start collecting, you first need to find a good watchmaker, and when you have that, you are golden. And a great watch, wears nicely on the wrist. Love the bracelet, love everything about it. I love the cell. This is these watches that Cell used to make are I like them more than the stuff they are putting out nowadays, because this is just gorgeous chronograph. And I even haven't mentioned you the hands. I like conventional hands. I like sword hands, but there is something about this. I don't know what you call them, syringe style hands. That's kind of German. What reminds me of Zen watches, and it's kind of crude but precise at the same time. And the second hand yellow, of course, is a T shape. So very nice watch for the money. And I could, back when I first started into watches, this was my wet dream, and it was my grail watch, and it's really definitely worthy. Sapphire crystal on the top, of course. Tissot watches, they all make watches with a sapphire crystal, so I'm not gonna mention it. So after reviewing some of the dressy watches from Tissot, like Le Loco, Visitate, this one is absolutely gorgeous, and that's it. Thank you for watching. EDC Connor signing out.